What is up, Locked On Bulldogs family? Happy Friday. I'm Daniel. That is our good buddy, Ben Dukes. We just call him Dukes because we're close. And he's here to talk to us today about a subject he knows all too well about, which is gambling. We're going to talk about the Georgia Bulldogs. Las Vegas really likes the Georgia Bulldogs, and they're going to make it really hard for you to win money on Georgia winning games. That's Georgia. Las Vegas does not like how easy it's been for Dukes and I to profit enormously off of Georgia's recent success, and so they're trying to make it hard on us. So we're going to talk about whether or not we're still going to be able to profit off this Georgia team. All of that coming up this today on the Locked On Bulldogs podcast.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Bulldogs podcast. Thanks so much for being here, for subscribing, for listening on audio, for watching on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you, fittingly enough, by FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the Locked On Bulldogs podcast. Much more about FanDuel coming up throughout the episode. But Dukes, how the heck are you, sir? It's great to have you back on the show.
It's great to be back on the show. The last time I was on the show, I felt like I was just a boy amongst men. I'll be honest, I felt like I was walking on to the football team once again with you two seasoned professional podcasters, just dropping dimes all day long, and me trying to keep up. So thank you for having me back.
Well, last time I think I saw you was in photographic form. I believe you were hanging out with executive producer intern Michael at a sporting event there in your neighborhood.
Yeah, we had a little sporting event out here. It was called the College Football National Championship.
Heard of it
here in Los Angeles, where we got to see a lot of things you don't see often.
Yeah, many of those things. Yeah,
you got to see multiple curtain calls by players at the end of a national championship game. Yep. You got to see an absolute blowout in a national championship game. You got to see rain inside a covered stadium,
covered
which is not
roof,
something you
and
see
yet it's just pouring. Did you get wet? Where were your seats?
No, well, I mean, I was trying to touch the planes as they flew by, but luckily, we did not get rained on right where we were. We did watch the rain blow into the TCU section down below us and across the field, and amazingly, those guys, they hung in there surprisingly long.
Kudos to them. Nothing but positive things. Listen, we played Michigan, we played Ohio State, we've played Alabama in this run that Georgia's been on. TCU, by far my favorite fan base that we've ever gone up against. By far my favorite group of people that Georgia has ever played in one of these big games. Kudos to them. Dude. Kudos to TCU. But that game was a lot of fun to watch.
It was a heck of a lot of fun, and I was temporarily invited to leave a message to a very fun group chat, which I decided to drop a message on that. Thank you, Michael, very much for that. Dude, by the way, that was a funny moment just because I think he saw a photo and hit me up and said, "Dude, where are you?" And I said, "I'm here." And he's like, "I am literally in the front of that section." And I said, "Well, bring that stash up here. I need to see it in person." Yeah. And for people who've only seen that thing in photograph form,
doesn't do it justice.
Holy hell.
Doesn't do it justice. It's real and it's spectacular. It's real and it is spectacular. All right, let's talk about something else that's spectacular, and that is the back-to-back defending national champion Georgia Bulldogs. A lot of teams have done that in the college football playoff era. No, just joking. No team has ever done that in the college football playoff era. And now we're trying to do something that no team has done in modern football, which is go the three-peat route. And again, Las Vegas likes us to do so. They like Georgia a lot to three-peat. So FanDuel's got some lines out, and I would love to get your take on them. Let's start with some games. You can currently on FanDuel right now, you can bet on 3 Georgia games in the regular season. You can bet on the Kentucky game, which is at home, obviously. You can bet on the Florida game, neutral site. And you can bet on the Tennessee game at the end of the year on the road, Week 11. Those lines, respectively, are Georgia's favored by 24 points against Kentucky. Georgia's favored by 20.5 points against what I'm told is a rival in Florida. And Georgia's favored on the road in Knoxville, where the mustard falls like sugar from the sky, by 7.5 points in Week 11 in Knoxville. So I will ask you this question, Dukes. If I told you on FanDuel this year you could only bet on one of those 3 games, and you got to take Georgia, obviously, because it's a Locked On Bulldogs podcast, which of those 3 lines, lay in 24 against Kentucky at home, lay in 20.5 in Jacksonville, or laying 7.5 in the godforsaken pit that is Knoxville, Tennessee?
God, I mean, like, okay, here's my issue. So let's work the other way around it. All right, let's just say I'm eliminating Kentucky. Okay,
you're not doing that. You're not. You and Clint. You and Clint are just. You're never gonna.
Too many Kentucky games. Kentucky games. It's
heck of a lot of points against Mark Stoops in Kentucky.
Dude,
we're staying away from that.
Kirby and Stoops are more than happy.
It is a bromance.
Get out there, kick the game off, and just play bridge. They're excited. Like, can we do nothing for the next few hours and let the clock tick off? Like, it is.
That's right.
It's incredible. So I can't. There's no way.
Can't do that. 24 is too many points. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
all right. So now we're down
24 points is the one you lose in the fourth quarter because some guy's in there and accidentally just fumbles the ball. And
absolutely.
So I can't go that way. So then I have to look at Florida, but you said 20.5?
20.5, less than 3 touchdowns. Interesting little hook there that they're giving you. And 7.5, the hook's going the other way in Knoxville.
Well, okay. So here's the thing with Florida, right? I don't know how you replace a first-round potential first-pick talent at quarterback the level of AR-15. I don't know how.
I mean, the talent on that kid is unbelievable. They were able to accomplish so many great things with him at quarterback there.
Exactly. You don't see accolades and accomplishments from a singular human being.
You don't.
Very frequently that match that for a number 1 pick. I mean,
it truly is remarkable.
I'm not sure. So that's that. It makes me lean that way. Mm-hmm. It really does. But again, that's a lot of points.
It's a lot of points in a rivalry game.
Right. And you never know what's going to happen. They might come out and have an amazing 8 minutes to start the third quarter. Mm-hmm. You just don't know what's going to happen.
It's happened before.
It occasionally happens. So I don't think there's anything that would please me more than for the saltiest fan base in the SEC to have to swallow dropping that 7.5 points in their own stadium. I don't. Have you looked at the weather report? Is it going to be dry?
That's the thing. And this was a surprise to me, Dukes. The weather report for the 3rd week of November 2023 is not yet out yet. The forecast has not been released yet. So we do not yet know about the weather. Yeah.
So they're not factoring that into the 7.5.
They couldn't have factored it in. But let me tell you, if there's dew on the ground, you're gonna see a real struggle for Tennessee.
So and they still have Heupel.
It's still Josh Heupel.
Okay.
That's right.
We still have Kirby Smart.
We still have Kirby and Josh Heupel, offensive genius. You may have heard that. So they do have that going for them.
March 2023, early lock it up, dude.
Yeah,
lock it up.
Just put the lock. Put a lock on the board. Hang one on the board.
Yeah, dude, we're covering. We're taking, if you're only giving me one out of those 3 games,
yeah,
and people can call me afraid to look at those bigger lines. No. But honestly, I like to say I'm courageous because what I've read from people like Eric Ainge is that the atmosphere in Tennessee alone.
Oh, you've never seen anything like it.
Right.
You've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
Georgia will be intimidated. They'll be scared to death to play in that game.
How could you not?
They will. Oh, is that?
How could you not be afraid?
How could you not be? Yeah, there'll be. I mean, absolutely. So, is Eric Ainge suiting up in that game? Is that what I heard? Are there rumblings that he might actually be? That he might have eligibility left? That he might try to come back and play in that game? All right, those are the 3 lines. I might actually lean Florida because it's less than 3 touchdowns, and Kirby really likes to beat Florida. He really and there's a chance that's the game he would run it up in. Like 100%, he would run it up in that game, and as he should. We support him as his fan base. There's a chance that by the 3rd week of November, Tennessee doesn't have anything to play for. And so the game doesn't really have a lot of meaning. There's a chance Georgia's already kind of locked up a spot in the college football playoff, by then. And so, you never know. Things could get weird in that game. We might pull the starters after the first quarter just to rest people for Georgia Tech because, you never know what's going to happen in that game.
Well, that in-state rivalry definitely picked up some new sauce this year, and so I think
got quite a bit of sauce on it. All right, let's come back and let's talk about national championship odds. Let's talk about season win total odds. But before we do that, let's talk about FanDuel. Dukes, I don't know if you know this. You may find this personally offensive, but there's something happening right now. It's called the NCAA tournament. And it is a bettor's paradise, Dukes. It is the place. There are more opportunities to lay down wagers on meaningful sporting events in this month than there ever have been before. The NBA season is heating up. The tournament is happening. And FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook because right now, new customers to FanDuel get a no-sweat first bet of up to $1,000. You may not like college basketball, but I promise you like $1,000. That's $1,000 in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. It's right there on the screen. If you're watching on YouTube, FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up today for your no-sweat first bet. The app is safe, secure, and super easy to use. Bet on money lines, point spreads, and which team will inevitably be cutting down the nets. Don't miss your shot at a no-sweat first bet of up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Dukes, why do you have to be the way that you are? You and all the other Georgia fans who just won't like college basketball. Why can't you just like it? It's good.
Sorry,
Why won't you just like it?
I'm depositing $500 on FanDuel right now.
Yes.
Give me a second. You just said no sweat first bet.
No sweat first bet up to $1,000.
Yeah,
so that's the way that we do that over there on FanDuel. FanDuel, let the record show that we got a new customer on the podcast.
There you go.
We literally got him to sign up on the podcast. I'm not sure if that counts for extra. All right. Dukes, let's talk about national championship odds. Georgia, as it will not come as a shock to you, is the favorite to win the national championship, plus 220 right now. If you want to go ahead and take Georgia today to win the national championship, plus 220. So that's just over 2-1 on your money. Wager $100, you get a payout of $220. Other teams, Alabama plus 500. Ohio State plus 700, Michigan plus 1,000, USC plus 1,600. And then you go to the season win totals, and this was where Clint and I, we really supplemented the accounts on the season win. If you know how to play the season win totals at the beginning of the year, you have to be patient. It's not like you can't make a bet and then 3 hours later when the game is over, you cash out that bet. But if you're willing to be patient, there's a lot of money to be made on the season win totals. And last year, Georgia's gosh darn season win total, Dukes, was 10.5, which meant even if they lost a game, which they were never going to do in the regular season.
Never was going to happen.
Never was going to happen. Even if they had lost a game, you still could have cashed that over. So we emptied the accounts on that. We cashed easily, never sweated it for 1 second. And now, though, Georgia's into that next level. They're into that next echelon, and the season win total is 11.5. So you basically, if you want to take the over, you have to say it's perfect season or you lose your money. So I ask you the same question that I asked before. If you got that $500 you just deposit on FanDuel,
okay.
If you have to lay it on one of those two bets, you can take national champion for plus 220, or you can take perfect regular season over 11.5 regular season wins at plus 116. Which one are you leaning towards? And why are you frozen? That's the question that we're asking. Dukes. All right. Well, we've completely lost Dukes. And so let me tell you what I'm leaning towards. I'm leaning towards this over 11.5 wins. Look at the regular season schedule. That game in Knoxville is the game that Georgia could potentially lose. And if they do lose that game, you obviously don't cash on this bet. Now, that being said, Georgia could lose that game in Knoxville, and you still cash on the season win on the national championship bet. But if Georgia's going to lose a game, chances are it's going to be – there he is. Chances are it's going to be in the college football playoff. What I'm telling the people, Dukes, is that I'm taking this season win total. If I have to choose between these two bets, I'm taking the season win total over 11.5 because I think if Georgia's going to get tripped up this year, it's not going to be to Tennessee and Knoxville. It's not going to be to Kentucky or Florida or Georgia Tech or any of these garbage teams that we play in the regular season. If Georgia's going to get tripped up this year, it's going to be in the college football playoff. It's going to be to one of these, it's going to be to one of these other college football playoff teams. And so, do I want to take a chance on a national championship preseason? Yes, I do. But I still think 11.5 regular season win total, I still think a perfect season is more likely than not for Georgia at this point. Your thoughts?
What are you getting on that win total?
It's plus 116, so you're getting a little bit of favorable juice on the win total. Obviously, the national championship juiced heavily, plus 220, so you get a little bit more bang for your buck if you're willing to go for that one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to line up right there with you. Reason being because so many things can derail a national championship, and when you're talking about by the time you get into postseason, that's where you're running into teams that actually have rosters that might be able to step up and do something against University of Georgia. So the other 12 games, I gotta take the over on the 11.5. If I'm only picking one of those two, now there may be a universe in which I start to split that bet up a little bit and put the take the over and then put a little bit on the championship game. And then you know what? I've been known to watch those odds, and if those odds change, maybe average up a little bit and put a little more money on that national championship at better odds. You never know. But I'm being unfair. You said one or the other, and I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to take that win total. Just you never know if receivers are actually going to get hurt and allow us to win games, because if they don't.
That's right. And you just look at last year. I mean, look at last year. Georgia had a dominant team. They had a dominant roster. They had the best college football player that's ever played college football, Stetson Bennett. And
no doubt,
if Ohio State had either a kicker or a wide receiver that could hold on to the football, then Georgia would have lost that game. And so you run up against teams, and anything can happen in the playoff. It's why I think a three-peat while I would still favor Georgia for a three-peat, I think it's a lot to ask because, I mean, it's just it is a lot to go through that gauntlet of the season and then come out and be able to win those 2 games in the playoff when they matter. So I go with the win total. I would go with the over 11.5 wins.
Yeah, the three-peat is a lot to ask. It's a lot to ask, and to be honest, it's almost as much to ask as it is to ask any other team to beat the University of Georgia and stop them from getting that three-peat.
See, there
almost as much.
It's near the same, but not quite as much.
It's not quite as difficult as asking another team to beat Georgia.
Especially when that other team is going to start Milroe at quarterback. Is that what we're doing at Alabama this year? That's what. Let's talk about that in the third segment, because Las Vegas doesn't just like Georgia. They like Georgia a lot, and they like Georgia a lot compared to a lot of other teams. So, let's get into that. First, want to let the people know about Built Bar. Dawgs Stats knows about Built Bar. We know about Built Bar. It's everyone's favorite protein bar. It tastes like a candy bar. They come in a wide variety of delicious flavors. There's peanut butter flavors. There's fruit flavors, which are the best. All of them are covered in 100% pure dark chocolate. All of them are keto approved. All of them are high in protein. All of them are low in sugar. All of them are high in fiber. And all of them are great for on-the-go, pre-workout, post-workout, meal replacement, whatever you need them for. Throw one in your desk drawer. Throw one in your glove box. Throw one in your bag on your way to pick up your kids from soccer practice. Built Bar. Go to Built.com. You get them at Sam's Club. You can get them at Walmart. Or you can go straight to the source, Built.com. Enter the promo code LOCKEDON for 15% off your first order. That's Built Bar, the world's tastiest protein bar. So, Dukes, we've covered all the ways that you can bet on Georgia except one, and I found this one to be the most interesting. You're a seasoned gambler. You've been on the betting apps before.
I've been on the betting apps.
You've seen the apps, and there's something that it is a pretty rare thing that you don't typically see. You don't typically get the opportunity to take the field against teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
FanDuel would love for you to bet on Georgia to win the national championship, or Alabama to win the national championship, or USC to win the national championship, or whoever to win the national championship. But FanDuel usually does not want you to be able to bet on everyone else to win the national championship, because I don't have to spell it out for you. Typically speaking, it's a pretty safe pick to take everyone else in college football. But there is an opportunity to take the field against Georgia. This is how much I think Las Vegas is on Georgia this year, and really speaks to what you were saying about the difficulty of knocking this team off. Because if you want to take the whole dang field in college football,
okay,
FanDuel's only going to give you minus 310 in juice. They're going to let you do it for just minus 310. Like, you could still make a lot of money. If you place a reasonably sized wager on that, you could still make a pretty good chunk of money. And then all you need is Alabama or USC or Michigan or Ohio State or Texas or LSU or Clemson or any of these other schools to win the national championship. That's how much Las Vegas likes Georgia. You can't take the field against Alabama this year, because that would be the safest, easiest bet in all of college football. Also, something I found interesting, and then I love to get your take on this, was, Tennessee beat Alabama last year. I'm not sure if you are familiar with that game. They took the goalposts, they threw them into the river because they are backwards hillbillies and they have no idea what in the world it is that they are doing.
It's a monumental moment when you defeat a non-playoff team in your own stadium.
They literally printed a book about it. That's you're not exaggerating when you say it's a monumental moment. They're gonna hang a banner in Neyland Stadium that says we beat Alabama in a regular season game in a year that Alabama wasn't really that good. So this year, Tennessee has to go to Alabama. That's the way schedules work. Georgia, we mentioned earlier, plays Tennessee on the road. Now, here's an interesting little factoid. Right now, Alabama is favored by over Tennessee at home by 8 points. And Georgia is favored over Tennessee on the road by 7.5 points. That's how much better Las Vegas thinks Georgia is than Alabama. That's typically that home field advantage is like a full 4, sometimes 5 points when you get into these massive conference, big stadium. It's a significant advantage. I mean, just talk to Eric Ainge. And so that's how much better Las Vegas thinks Georgia is to the next best team in all of college football, which is Alabama. My question to you is, are we really that much better than everybody else this year? Because this is a weird place to be for a Georgia fan.
It is a weird place to be. Because are we that much better? I mean, how do you gauge it? Rosters? Like, our roster is an incredible roster.
Sure.
But to think that, I mean, if I can parse out what you said to me a minute ago, what you're telling me is, if someone were to take, this is not financial advice, but if someone were to take whatever kitty they had stored up for retirement and put it on any other team,
every team in college football,
team except for Georgia, they would get a 33% return on their money inside of 4 months.
I'm not a mutual fund aficionado, but that's pretty good.
That seems like a pretty good return. What that tells me, and I am also not a mutual fund aficionado. I'm not a big. I mean, my bank account has tens of dollars. But, wow. Yeah.
Flex,
but you know, I guess sometimes you gotta. But what I'm thinking about here is, you don't usually see those kinds of odds placed forth if the person giving them thinks they're going to lose.
That's right.
You don't usually see. So I would say Vegas is smarter than insiders and gurus. Vegas is smarter than a lot of talking heads, this one included. And I would say, barring injuries, barring catastrophic, crazy circumstance, yes, I think Georgia might be that much better than.
It's an interesting conversation because to be fair and balanced, which we always are here on the Locked On Bulldogs podcast, we are nothing if not fair and balanced. If there happened to be within the 199 that are still here in the third segment, if there happened to be an Alabama fan mixed in, what the Alabama fan would say is that Alabama was in this place last year. They were the prohibitive favorite to win the national championship. Georgia, the defending national champion last year, had obviously beaten Alabama in the title game last year, or the prior year. But Alabama, the prohibitive favorite to win the national championship in this season, a season in which they didn't even make the college football playoff with the most talented roster, listen, literally that's ever been assembled in all of college football. People are calling it the most catastrophic coaching failure that's ever happened in any sport. Alabama didn't even make the playoff when they were this big of a favorite. So it's not like prohibitive favorites always win the national championship. That is certainly not what's being said here, or what Vegas is proposing, that Georgia's some lock to win the national championship. What Vegas is saying is that Georgia is by far the best team. And if Georgia doesn't win the national championship, I think you can infer, based on what we're seeing right here, it should be a big disappointment to Georgia fans because I think as of this moment, we clearly have the best team in college football. And that wasn't even the case. That hasn't been the case in either of the last 2 seasons in which we've won the national championship. Now Georgia's in a bit of a different position as the ultimate front runner, the ultimate favorite in every game that they go into, which is interesting.
I just, I'm going to say a couple of things here that, I don't know, Clint might shoot me. You might shoot me for.
He's not here.
I don't know. But here's some thoughts. No, he's not, but he's squirrely. I know his ways. He might track me down and find me.
He's sneaking in. He's sneaking into. Yeah. He'll just pop up in the left-hand corner.
I only have one earpiece in. I'm keeping this one open.
Yeah.
To see if I
he just shows up over your shoulder. We recorded an episode. He was in some sort of a dungeon several weeks ago. I don't know what. He may be out in Los Angeles. Nobody knows.
You never know. But okay. So Georgia fans, we gotta. There's some things we gotta square with ourselves because we spent a long time being punished. We spent a long time being beat up.
We go.
And
this feels cathartic. This feels like it's going to be important. This is an important.
No, it's just for a long time. For a long time, we were real close, and we had the talent, and we just needed some kind of mastermind to get us there to put it all together. Right? That's what we needed, and we needed it all to come together at the same time. And then Kirby showed up, and then we went to the playoffs in year 2. And we're like, oh man, we've got the coach. Now we just need some talent. Then all of a sudden, the defense showed up, and we said, man, this defense is amazing. Kirby Smart's got it going. If only we had an offense that could pair with that. And then Todd Monken showed up, and we got this offense kicking. And we said, oh God, it's so great. Man, we had an injury here. We got this walk-on who's playing. If only we could have a 4 or a 5-star recruit behind the center, then maybe Georgia could be that team, maybe. And now in 2023, we have the best head coach that's ever coached at this school, the best head coach currently in college football. Accurate. We have the reigning national championship team. We have a defense that just keeps getting better, that has some of the scariest edge talent, some of the scariest defensive backfield talent that we've had ever. We have amazing receivers.
Yep.
Some homegrown, some brought in via this incredibly brilliant idea of the NCAA called the transfer portal.
Everyone seems to love it.
Yeah,
everyone seems to be in favor of it. Yeah, it's great.
We have either a 4 or 5-star quarterback at behind the center. We don't know.
There's
which
no
one
other
yet.
options. There's no other options.
But all we have is 4 and 5 stars.
Yep.
And I'll be damned. Todd Monken left, I know, but I'll be damned if we didn't somehow stumble ass backwards into the offensive coordinator that is the all-time leading offensive coordinator as far as offensive production in our entire school's history. Georgia fan.
History of the school. That's what you say.
We're there.
This is it.
We're there. It's time to stop wetting your pants every time someone mentions the possibility that we're going to win. Guess what, guys? You should expect to win.
We win. That's what we do. We're Georgia, and now we win. That's it. Win. Dukes, I can't think of any better way to close the show. You are a hero. You're a legend. You are the human equivalent of Michael Smith's mustache. So I can't think of any other higher compliment that I could give a person. Can't wait to have you back on the show as we get closer to the season. Can't wait to we're going to the Kentucky game this year. You make your way down to Athens. Clint and I will be there. Smith boys will be there. We'll be rolling it. If you're going to get on the text thread permanently, if you're going to get in the group chat permanently, now's the time.
Look, don't dangle those things in front of me if you don't
book
mean it.
the plane ticket. Book the plane ticket. All right, Dukes, thanks for being on. We follow this man on Twitter at Ben Dukes. He's a great follow. He's a fun hang, and enjoyed having him on the podcast. We will see you guys next week. Clint and I will be back talking more with all things University of Georgia, and we'll talk to you guys then.